Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome everyone on today's lecture at Theories of Cost. Theory of Cost, this is the module 7, lecture 1. And theory of cost can be divided into two parts. One, traditional theory, and two, modern theories. Traditional theory include all short term of cost curve, and modern theory long run cost curves, and more specifically will focus on concept of costs, types of costs, the derivation of short term average cost, analyze the link between firms production process and its total cost, and you will also be able to learn the meaning of average cost and marginal cost and how they are related with each other. And we'll try to examine the relationship between short-run cost curve and long-run costs. Even we'll discuss economic profit and accounting profit. Economies of scale we'll also discuss. So let us discuss what is cost, meaning of cost. The firm decision on profit maximizing depends upon the behavior of its own cost as well as behavior of its own revenue. In order to produce a good, every firm makes use of various factor and non-factor inputs, and the amount spent on the use of these inputs is called cost of production. So now let us discuss what is cost. In general terms, cost refers to amount to be paid or given for acquiring any resource or service. In economics, cost is the monetary value that has been spent by the company or a firm in order to produce something. When any firm wants to produce any goods, then there is a need of lot of inputs, and the amount spent on purchase of these inputs is called cost. The term cost has different meaning based upon its purpose. The traditional definition of cost emphasizes on the explicit cost, but the modern economists give more importance to opportunities cost. Opportunity cost means next best alternative. An explicit cost, payment made to the outsiders. The cost of production refers to expenses incurred by the producer in producing a particular quantity of output or good. There are various concepts of cost. We'll discuss one by one all. For example, money cost, implicit and explicit cost, opportunity cost, direct and indirect costs, private and social costs, economic cost, marginal, incremental and sunk costs, fixed cost, variable cost. So we'll discuss one by one. The first is money cost. What is money cost? The amount spent in terms of money for the production of a commodity is called money cost. The firm spent some money in the production of a commodity in terms of money, payment made to the factors of production, land, labor or capital. and maybe raw material. So, in terms of money spent by a firm is called money cost. And generally, the term cost is used for the money cost. Although we have the various types of cost, but generally, the term cost is used for the money cost. This term includes following expenses. The money cost includes maybe wages paid to the laborers, 2. Expenses on raw material and machinery, taxes, maybe direct tax, indirect tax, payment for the power or fuel, rent paid for the premises, and transportation charges, etc. etc. These are the part of money cost. Money cost. Now, explicit cost. Explicit cost can be defined as the cost which involved actual payment to other parties outside the firms, outsiders, which include the direct money outlay for the factor production or actual money paid by the firm, yeah, the producers from his out of his pocket. Explicit cost. Now, implicit cost. Implicit cost is basically, it refers to the value of inputs owned or used by the firm its own production process do not involve a direct money outlay. Means self-employed or self-owned resources. Payment made to the self-employed or self-owned resources. For example, an entrepreneur who is a manager. His firm has to forego his salary. The person who is an entrepreneur and he is also looking after all the managerial, the management, as a manager he is working, which he could not have earned if he had worked elsewhere. If he will work some other firm, definitely he has to pay. He will earn some money. But when he is working his own firm as a manager, maybe the firm has to forgo his salary. So, and even if he has its own the building to work that firm, it means he will not pay any rent for them that buildings. So this implicit cost is basically self-employed and self-owned resources, payment made to the self-employed and self-owned resources. The accountant will not show this cost. We'll discuss later what is accounting cost. Now, opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means next best alternative you have. It can be defined the cost of any decision measured in terms of next best alternative that has been sacrificed. What you have the next best alternative. The opportunity cost of a firm is even in using any input is what the input could earn the best alternative use outside the firm. So opportunity cost means next best alternative you have. Now, what is economic costs? Economic costs refer to the cost involved for all the factor of production, including those purchased from outside as well those owned by the firm, implicit or explicit. Economic costs include explicit, means payment made to the outsiders, payment made to the laborers, payment made to the use of purchase the raw material, and payment made to the in the form of rent or taxes, all explicit, as well as your own the payment made to the its own self-employed resources. For example, the manager who is working his own firm as a manager, so maybe if he work in outside that firm, he will earn maybe 50,000 or 1 lakh. And when we calculate the economic cost, we use the imputed value. Imputed value means the market cost of that product or the market cost of that particular building or the what you will earn in other firm. So economic cost include both implicit as well as explicit cost. Now next, the marginal cost. Marginal cost means additional cost. It can be defined as the change in total cost of a firm as a result of change in one unit of output. Additional costs. Meaning by change in total cost. See, delta TC. T means total, C means cost. Change in total cost due to change in delta. Q means change in quantity. So if you will use one more unit of inputs, and there will be change in output, and that change, for example, if one person is producing 20 unit in a day, and if you use one more unit of that input, and now output is 30, so 20 minus 30, so 30 minus 20, that 10 is called as the marginal cost. Marginal cost. Next one, incremental costs. Incremental costs are those costs. It is the total additional cost that firm has to incur as a result of implementing a major managerial decision. The expenditure on managerial decision making, that is the incremental cost. Change in the cost caused by the given managerial decision, cost of adding a new product line, advertising, campaigning, etc. etc. This is the part of the incremental costs. Incremental costs. Sunk costs. Sunk costs are those costs which are incurred in the past or that have to be incurred in the future as well as a result of it, the contractual agreement. If you have the contractual agreement and you have to pay, for example, 20,000 or 50,000 per month, which is not actually the cost of what you are producing right now, so that cost, because of you have made contract in past, so you have to pay some amount. That 50,000 is called the sunk cost. Sunk cost that have already been incurred. That is not the expenditure made by the firm on the current output, but this cost that have already been incurred in the past. Since they are in the past, so they cannot influence the current decision. And for example, long-term contract lasted that will last for the next 5 years. So contractual loan, etc. etc. We can quote the example of sunk cost. Now direct cost. Direct cost, basically the costs which can be directly associated to the production of a given product. The use of raw material, the labor input, machine time involved in the production, each unit that product can be determined. In simple word, direct cost which can easily separated from the product. You can easily calculate that cost. And some cost maybe you cannot calculate easily. For example, your pen, you can calculate the cost of that cap, ink, refill, etc. But some cost, maybe transportation cost, maybe the person who was outside that the firm for the take care of all the activities, maybe security guard, and you cannot separate all these costs from your pen, your product. So that is called indirect cost. Direct cost which can easily separated from the a product, which can be seen. Whereas in indirect cost, I have told you, are those costs that cannot be separated and directly attributed to individual unit of production, like stationery, office, administrative expenses, depreciation of plant and buildings. All these are the indirect costs which are involved in the production of that good but cannot easily separated. You cannot easily calculate the indirect costs because of the stationery and office administrative expenses cannot directly involved in the production cost of that one commodity, but directly you can easily separate it from the product. Now, private cost versus social cost. Private means the private costs are those costs which acquired or incurred directly to the firm engaged in relevant activities, whereas social costs are those costs which are incurred by the society as a whole for the welfare purpose. Private cost may be only for the profit motive, for their own sake, but for the public sake, for the public welfare, the amount spent as a whole society is basically called as social cost, and those costs passed on the persons not involved activities are directly way, that is they are the passed on the society at a large, which is called as social cost for the welfare purpose. Now, short run cost curve and long run cost curve. Short run cost curve, short run is the time period in which at least one input is fixed, maybe plant or equipment, and we have some cost will be variable. Basically, the short run average cost curve we can divide into three parts: total cost, average cost, and marginal cost. Even total cost can be two types in the short run: total fixed cost and total variable cost. Short run cost curve can have a three types: one, total cost, average cost, and marginal cost. Marginal cost. Total cost can further divide into two parts: total fixed cost and total variable cost. Similarly, short run average cost, the average cost curve, average cost again, average fixed cost and average variable cost, and lastly marginal cost. So short run cost curve, where we have some factor of production fixed and some will be variable. So this is three types we'll discuss in detail. And long run cost curve, long run is the time in which all inputs are flexible, variable, only variable cost will be there, all factor of production will be variable. So let us discuss one by one all these costs. Fixed cost means the cost, those costs which do not vary with the change in the output of product. As you increase the output, or maybe you don't have the output, the fixed cost will remain same. Any change in output will not directly affect the cost. That is known as the fixed cost. Fixed cost do not vary with the quantity of output produced. As you produced more and more quantity, maybe fixed cost will be remain same. For example, you are paying rent to the owner of the building, that is the fixed cost. You have purchased the machinery, and that the payment made to the machinery, that is the fixed cost. Interest expenses, rent, equipment, and taxes, and salary to the permanent staff is basically example of fixed cost. So fixed cost is the cost which do not vary do not change with the quantity of output produced. Whereas variable cost are those costs that vary with the level of output. As you increase the production, cost will also increase. You stop the production, the cost will stop. That means that is variable cost. For example, electricity expense that fluctuate with the output is called variable cost. Expenses that fluctuates with output is called variable costs. Means any increase of the output will increase the variable cost, and any decrease of output will decrease the variable cost. Example, raw materials, variable utility expenses like sales, commission, electricity, etc. etc. These are the variable cost. Total cost, the sum of all costs incurred in the production. Total cost. Total cost means all cost incurred in the production. TC is equal to FC plus VC. FC means fixed cost. VC means variable cost. So total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. Average cost means per unit cost. Average cost is the per unit cost. Per unit cost means total cost divided by output. If you produce a quantity and total cost is 100 and output maybe 20, so 100 divided by 20, it means per the unit cost, that is the 5 rupees. Total cost divided by output is the average cost. Marginal cost, that is, I have already stated that, additional cost. The cost of one more and maybe one fewer unit of production is called as marginal cost, additional cost. Change in total cost due to change in quantity. The difference between total cost. When you use more unit of the output, then there will be change in total cost. That is called as marginal cost. Change in total cost due to change in quantity. If the quantity will increase, and how much cost will increase, that is the total cost. Now, fixed cost, variable cost and total cost we'll see with the help of this table. For example, this first column is saying depicting output or quantity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are the quantity, output produced. Fixed cost 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. This cost will not increase or decrease with the increase or decrease of output. Whether output is 1, fixed cost is 10, or you are producing 8 unit of the product, even then the total cost is 10. So it will not vary with the increase or decrease of output. Where total variable cost will change with the increase of output. 1 to 2, now variable cost 10 to 18. 2 to 3, 18 to 24. 3 to 4, 24 to 28. 4 to 5, 28 to 32. 5 to 6, 32 to 38. 6 to 7, 38 to 46. And last 7 to 8 output, then variable cost will increase 46 to 62. So this shows that as the output increases, the total variable cost also increases. But there is no change in the fixed cost. It remains constant. It remains 10. Now, the total cost. Total fixed cost plus total variable cost. 10 plus 10, 20. 10 plus 18, 28. So total fixed cost plus total variable cost. 10 plus 28, 38. 10 plus 32, 42. 10 plus, so this 10 plus 46, 56. 10 plus 62, 72. It means as the output increases, total cost will also increase. Why? Because of it include both total fixed cost as well as total variable cost of the firm. Now we can explain with the help of this diagram. Here we have x-axis, we have quantity or output, and this y-axis we have the cost, and these cost basically also known as the short-term cost. Here TFC, total fixed cost, which remain fixed for say 10 rupees, as we have discussed in previous slide, that total cost, for example, total fixed cost remain constant, it is 10 rupees. Whether you are producing this amount, or whether you are producing this much, or whether you are producing this much, 10, 8, 9, 10, 20, but the fixed cost remain unchanged. There is no change with the increase of output. This is called as fixed cost. Whereas total variable cost, maybe if you have zero output, the total variable cost will be zero. But as well as you increase the output, you want to produce more and more unit of the commodity, the total variable cost start increasing. It vary with the output. As output increase, the total cost will be increase. Maybe initial unit stage it will increase very high, and then there will be some increase in the total cost at diminishing rate, but again it will increase very sharp, very increasing rate. So it will be like this total variable. Now the total variable cost is fixed cost plus total variable cost. That's why it has start from P point. Total cost cannot be zero. Why? Because of it also include the fixed cost. So total cost is total fixed cost plus total variable cost. So this is the total cost curve, which again depicts that as the output increases, it increases, but the rate of increasing in the initial stage is very high, and then it increases at the diminishing rate, and then it increases very fast rate. So this is fixed cost, variable cost, and total cost. Hopefully you are able to understand that what is the fixed cost, what is the variable cost, and what is the total cost. Fixed cost, no change with the change in output. Any increase or decrease in output will not affect the cost that is called as the fixed cost. But the cost which will vary, which will increase or decrease with the increase or decrease of the output, is called variable cost. And total cost is fixed cost plus variable cost. Now let us discuss the average cost. Average cost is the per unit cost of production obtained by dividing total cost and the total output. We have already discussed. Average means per unit cost. Average means per unit cost, and we can calculate this cost, the total cost of the production divided by quantity. Total cost divided by quantity is known as the average cost. It is the cost of per unit cost. It is also equal to the sum of total the average variable cost and average fixed cost. So per unit cost is, this is, you can see average cost. AC means average, A means average, C means cost, TC total cost divided by quantity. T means total, C means cost. Total cost divided quantity is called average cost, which is equal to AFC or AVC. This is also equal to average fixed cost plus average variable cost. Now we can explain the average variable cost with the help of this diagram. average variable cost. Here we have the volume of output, quantity produced, and y-axis we have cost. And this average, this curve, U-shaped cost curve, this is called average cost curve. Average cost curve is U-shaped. It decreases with the increase of output. As well as quantity increases, it starts decreasing very that fastly. Maybe when you are producing this much of 1 unit of the output, maybe average cost will be very high. But as output increases, it starts decreasing and it will reach its minimum point. P X is the minimum point, minimum cost, average cost. And beyond this point, if you want to increase more and more output, then average cost start increasing. So this average cost in the initial stages, it will decrease with the increase of output, but after certain point it start increasing. When it will reach its maximum point, after this point it start increasing. So average cost curve will be U-shape. Now next, average cost, I have stated that is equal to, if this will be U-shaped, at very low levels, the output average cost will be high because of fixed cost is spread over only the few units. Average total cost declines as output increases, and the average total cost start rising because of average variable cost rising substantially. So the bottom of U shape we have already discussed in this diagram. The bottom of this average cost curve, it shows the minimum cost. This shows the minimum cost. Minimum cost means, but beyond this point, if you want to produce more commodity, it will start increasing. So U shape occurs at the quantity that minimizing the average total cost, and this quantity is sometimes called efficient scale of firm. Efficient scale of firm, or this is the point up to where the firm has the economies of scale. Beyond this point, maybe there will be diseconomies of scale. Now, the family of average cost in the short run, AFC, average fixed cost. Average fixed cost can be calculated fixed cost divided by quantity, FC divided by quantity. Average fixed cost means fixed cost divided by quantity is called average fixed cost. Average variable cost divided by quantity, that is variable cost. Average fixed cost means fixed cost divided by quantity, whereas average variable cost means variable cost divided quantity. Average total cost divided by quantity. This is average total cost. This can be explained with the help of next diagram. See. Now, this is very interesting. Average fixed cost will decrease with the increase of output. You can see with the help of this green diagram that average fixed cost is decreasing as well as the output quantity will increase. Similarly, here average variable cost will also decrease, but after some time point it is maybe start increasing. Here average fixed cost is more than average variable cost, but beyond this point average variable cost is more than average fixed cost, and average fixed cost plus average variable cost is the average total cost. And average total cost shows that yes, in the initial stages of the output it is very high, and as well as the output increases it start decreasing. So average total cost is equal to average fixed cost plus average variable cost. average variable cost. This is called as the family of average costs. Family of average costs. Average cost. Now, see what is the relationship between average cost and average fixed cost and average variable cost. Average total cost we have seen. Average fixed cost plus average variable cost. Average total cost is equal to average fixed cost plus average variable cost. Average total cost falls when average fixed cost and average variable cost falls. If the average fixed cost start increasing or average variable cost start increasing, the average total cost will also increase. If decrease in average fixed cost is greater than increase in average variable cost, ATC will fall. And if decrease in average fixed cost, increase in AVC, that ATC remain constant. And if decrease in average fixed cost will be less than increase in average fixed variable cost plus average total cost, then average total cost start increasing. Now, next important concept is the marginal cost. Marginal cost. Marginal cost measure the amount of total cost arises when the firm increase the output 1 unit and additional unit of output. Means marginal cost is the additional cost. Change in total quantity due to change in output. Marginal cost. It refers to change in total cost caused by the production of one more unit of output, additional output. When you increase one more unit of output, there will be change in total cost, that is called as the marginal cost. Change in total cost divided by change in quantity. Delta TC, T total cost, C means cost, divided by delta Q. So marginal cost is equal to change in total cost divided by change in quantity. Now let us discuss with the help of this table. First column is output 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this fourth, I'm sorry, this is second column, and this is third column is 30, 40, 48, for example, 64, 62, 80, and this 100, 0, 2. Now our focus is that when change in output, for example 0 to 1, then I'm sorry, here total cost 30, because of maybe this is due to fixed cost. Why the total cost is if even output is 0 and the total cost is 30, maybe because of this is fixed cost, 30 is fixed cost. Now 0 to 1, then there is change in total cost 30 to 40. Now 30 to 40. Now 40 minus 30, 10 is the marginal cost. Change in total cost due to change in quantity. Now 2 to 3, 1 to 2, 1, 40, 2, 48. Now 48 minus 48 is the marginal cost. Similarly, when output increase 2 to 3, then total cost 48 to 54. Now the difference between this 54 to 6. Now see, in the initial stages, the marginal cost may be very high, then it start decreasing, it will 6, and after reaching the minimum point, again it will start increasing. Now this, when you produce 3 to 4th, and if I produce the 4th unit, then the total cost is 64, and 64 minus 54, 8. Then 5th unit, 80, 80 minus 62, 18. Now the marginal cost is increasing. Similarly, the marginal cost will decrease with the increase of output. It will reach its minimum point, and after this reaching this point, this will start increasing. It will also U-shape. Marginal cost curve will be also U-shape. Why? Because of as you increase the output, it start decreasing. Law of diminishing marginal utility here, maybe this is the reason. And this will reach here. Now you can see this curve is show the marginal cost curve. As output increases, the costs start decreasing, but marginal cost reaches its minimum point, and after this point it start increasing as well as the output increasing. So marginal cost curve, again the U shape. It decreases with the increase of output. It will reach its minimum point, and that after reaching the minimum point it start increasing. The shape of marginal cost depends upon the diminishing marginal returns or variable factors, that is L, labor. Now relationship between marginal cost, average cost, and maybe marginal product and average product we will discuss in next the lecture, that what is average product and marginal product. Average product means per unit output, or marginal product means additional output. See, this is very interesting. We have already discussed the average variable cost or average cost, and this is the marginal cost curve. Now focus on these two curve. One is average cost curve and marginal cost curve. And see, the average cost curve is decreasing with the increase of output. X-axis we have output. And similarly, marginal cost also decreasing as the output increasing. But the point to be noted here that this average cost is decreasing, and this is the minimum point. And try to note this point, that where average cost curve will be minimum, marginal cost curve will intersect average cost curve from below, where average cost curve will be minimum. The point where average cost curve will be minimum, the marginal cost will intersect this average cost curve here from the below. This is the fundamental law, that the point where average cost will be minimum, marginal cost will be intersect the average cost from here. Listen, this is the minimum point of average cost, but this is the minimum point of marginal cost curve. And similarly, if you see the average product, when marginal cost is minimum, here marginal product is the maximum L point. When you have this much of labor, OL of labor. Now here marginal cost is minimum, but here marginal product is maximum. When the marginal cost intersect the average cost from below on here in this point, but here reverse, the marginal product intersect average product from above. Now try to understand here the point here, average cost curve, marginal cost curve intersect from below. And similarly, see this diagram here, average cost curve, average product curve and marginal product curve intersect this from above. This is the equilibrium point, you can see. But here, that we have discussed in last class also, that maybe in next lecture we'll see that this will be the equilibrium point. This is the end of the first stage. Simple. There are, when AC falls, MC will also fall, but less than AC. Try to note, when average cost fall, marginal cost is also falling, but less than AC. Now here average cost curve marginal cost curve intersect average cost curve from below, but beyond this point marginal cost rise, average cost rise, but the rate of increase in marginal cost is more than average cost curve. So when you are using L2 labor, beyond this point the marginal cost curve increasing, average cost curve also increasing, but the increase in marginal cost curve is more than average cost curve. And similarly here, when average cost curve decreasing, marginal cost is decreasing, but average product is increasing, marginal product is increasing. Marginal product is increasing, average product is also increasing. But the rate of increase in marginal product is high as compared to average product here. And after this point, average product decreasing, marginal product also decreasing, but the rate of decreasing now, marginal product is more than average product. Totally reverse of this. Shape of diagram will be also reverse of this. So you will able to understand that what is the relationship between marginal cost, average product, and marginal product. Maybe this is the efficiency point. Because of beyond this point, marginal cost, average cost both are increasing, and after this point, average product start decreasing, marginal product is also start decreasing. So this is the relationship between marginal product, average product, and average variable cost. Now, three important properties of the cost curves. Marginal cost curve eventually rising with the quantity output increases we have discussed. Average total cost curve U-shaped. Average total and the marginal cost curve U-shape. The marginal cost curve intersect average cost curve at the point where is the minimum. Here average cost curve is minimum. The point where average cost curve is minimum, marginal cost curve will intersect the average cost where average cost curve is minimum. Now let us discuss the long run cost curve, which is also known as the long run cost curve. Is modern theory of cost curve. Long run cost curve. Long run cost curve will be maybe L shape. Modern economists say that will be these costs will be more flatter as compared to the short run cost curve. Long run cost curve will be some flatter as compared to the short run cost curve. Short run cost curve, because of there some cost will be fixed, but in the long run all cost will be variable. The long run is a period during which all inputs become variable, elastic. There's no fixed factor of production. Long run cost curve. In the long run, fixed cost become variable cost. This is very interesting. In the long run, even fixed cost become the variable costs. All costs become variable. Now, cost in the long run, therefore, the firms are in the position to expand the scale of their production in the long run by purchasing large quantity of all inputs. Whole scale can be changed in the long run. There's no fixed factors. So, long run cost curve shows the relation between the total cost curve, total cost and total output. Basically, all the long run cost curve can be derived from the short run cost curves. Long run is composed a series of short run production decision. Long run is composed of a series of short run production decision. So that's why all long run cost curves, that derived from the short run cost curve. Long run cost curve, especially the average cost curve, also known as the planning curve. Planning curve. Long run average cost curve, basically also known as planning curve. With the help of this curve, a firm can plan as to which plant it should be used to produce different quantity of output, so that production is obtained at the minimum cost. So that's why it is also known as the planning curve. These are also known as the envelope curve, because it encloses all the short run average cost curves. It implies that average cost curve in the long run cannot exceed the short run average cost curve. That's why it is also known as the envelope curve. So long run cost curve derived from the total short run cost curve. The long run average cost, which is called LAC, is the locus of tendency point of short run average cost curve. Let us see with the help of this diagram. Next diagram. The long run average cost curve shows the lowest average cost at it is possible to the produce each output when the firm had sufficient time to change both plant size as well as labor employed. I mean, there's no factors fixed in the long run. All factor of production are variable. A whole scale of production can be changed in the long run. So the long run curve will be some flatter as compared to the short run. But as I've told you that the long run cost curve, for example, this is the average long run cost curve. See this diagram. We have x-axis, we have quantity, y-axis, we have average cost curve, long run average cost curve. Basically, this is the average long run cost curve, which is more flatter as compared to short run. Short run cost curve will be, we have seen, that is U shape basically, but in the long run we have flatter curve that can be L shape basically. You can see more flatter, you cannot purely L shape, but is it more of flatter. And this average long run cost curve derived from the short run cost curve. For example, this is the short run cost curve 1, short run cost curve 2, short run cost curve 3, short run cost. So the long run average cost curve is derived from the short run cost. Long run average cost curve is that curve which shows the minimum cost per unit of production, producing each output level corresponding to the different scales of production. So long run cost curves can be derived from the short run cost curves. This is the long run cost curves. Now, long run shape of a long run cost curve depends upon the economies of scale. While the position of this curve depend on the external economies such as change in technology, change in efficiency of the production. Change in these external economies will result the shift in LAC. Now, long run marginal cost curve. Marginal cost means additional cost. So the long run marginal cost curve again derived from the short run cost curves. Marginal cost curve. Long run marginal cost curve is defined as the additional cost of producing an extra unit of output in the long run. That is when all inputs are variable. In the long run, we have to assume that all factor of production, all the inputs are variable. There is nothing fixed factors. Long run marginal cost curve is derived from the short run marginal cost curve by considering the point of intersection of, listen carefully, by considering the point of intersection of short run marginal cost curves with vertical line drawn from the point of tendency of corresponding short run average cost curve and long run average cost curve. Let us explain with the help of following diagram. Long run marginal cost curve. This is tendency point where short run cost curve and marginal cost curve intersect. This is the short run average cost curve 2 and marginal cost curve 2. This is the short run average cost curve 3 and this is marginal cost curve 3. So these are tendency point, the minimum point of these, where we can draw a line like this one from the point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where the short run average cost curve, that the point where marginal cost curve intersects the short run cost curve, this, when we draw a line, this is called as the marginal cost curve, like this. This is this curve, marginal cost curve. Long run marginal cost curve will be more flatter than the short run marginal cost curve. Now let us compare between the long run and short run cost curve. Long run cost curve functions help in taking in the long term decision like expanding the scale operations, installing new plants, etc. Whereas in the long run curve can be used to show how firms find its own optimum size. this is the most important utilization or importance of this curve, that long run curve can be used to show how a firm find its own optimum size, optimum point, efficiency point. Short run cost curves helps in showing how firm can decide on the optimum utilization of given size of plant. Short run firms optimizes the resource utilizations. Now let us discuss briefly about the economies of scale. There are economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. When cost increases, it means that diseconomies of scale. When costs start decreasing with the increase of output, it means there are some benefits of the economies of scale. Briefly, we'll discuss that what is economies of scale. Economies of scale exists when a firm increases its plant size. When firm increases its plant size, the labor employed by the same percentage, its output increases by larger percentage, the average total cost decreases. The main source of economies scale, greater specialization both of labor and capital. Economies of scale means the benefit due to expand of its own expansion of a firm. When firm expand its own size, or maybe firm will use more specialized labor, or maybe firm will use more the advanced technology, the output will increase, the costs are decreasing. This is called as economies of scale. Now firm has the economies of scale, but this is more of due to specialization, both labor as well as capital. So whereas diseconomies of scale exist when a firm decreases plant size, labor employed the same percentage, the output decreases, smaller percentage, means the rate at which firm change the plants, or they change the labor or the output, if the output will increase more than that rate, that means there's economies of scale. Whereas when the firm increase the labor or the increase the set size or specialization, the output will not increase at the same proportion, it will increase lesser than smaller percentage, then and the average cost increases, and the average cost, total cost increases. It means this is diseconomies of scale. Diseconomies of scale arise from the deficiency coordinating and controlling a large enterprises. Now, economies or diseconomies of scale can be explained with the help of this diagram. Now, the form, quantity, cost, this is the economies of scale up to this point. When output is increases, the cost is decreasing. Cost is decreasing up to here. This side we have the economies of scale, and beyond this, when firm produce more and more quantity, or the scale is changed, the output increasing, but cost is also increasing. So this side we have the diseconomies of scale. This part, left side we have the economies of scale, and right side we have the diseconomies of scale. Diseconomies means there's a loss. The diseconomies means the cost is increasing, whereas economies means the cost is decreasing due to increase in output. So economies and diseconomies of scale. Economies of scale due to expansion of its own size. And so let us summarize this chapter, this module. And this module started with the discussing various types of cost. We have discussed the total cost, marginal cost, average cost, fixed cost, sunk cost, social cost. There are many costs we have discussed, and later we have discussed the relationship with cost with the production, that how the production, this cost is associated with the production. Cost management, that we have discussed, helps to firm look at the most efficient method of the production, providing the series production function, or this cost function guide to produce to the producer that what should be the minimum level of cost, because of to maximize the output, maximize the profit, cost should be minimum. So what should be the optimum point of inputs? Inputs means cost, that output can be maximized, because of all firm has only one motive, that to maximize the output. So output can be maximized or profit can be maximized if the cost they will use the optimum point of the cost or minimum cost or minimizing the cost. The relationship between output and the cost in the short run is determined by the short run cost functions we have discussed. And we have also analyzed the long run cost curve. A firm has sufficient time to vary all the inputs. In the long run, firm choose that the combination of input that maximize the output or minimize the cost. We have also examined the various classification of cost and shape their shapes of cost curve, modern theories as well as the traditional theory of cost. And lastly, economies and diseconomies of scale with the help of their the cost perspective there. And in this last part of this session, we have discussed what is economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. So finally, cost, the concept of cost is very, very important in economics. For the producer, is very, very important. With this, thank you very much.